Some rabbits are calm, some rabbits want to bite your face off, and you wonder why, right? So I'm going to go over 3 main things that I believe in my 20 years plus experience raising rabbits that really contribute to a rabbit's behavior. Let's just knock this one out of the park. Not all rabbits are sweet. These videos of nose bumps and all the cute things that get your clicks and your views on here on this platform or others, they're not showing the aggressive rabbit that, you know, demands something or will fight you to pick it up, things like that. So just understand that rabbits, for one, are a prey animal. In other words, they are an animal that gets eaten in the food chain, okay? So they are naturally more jumpy, they're more concerned. They're not a dog that is going to be comfortable with most things, right? Even there are some dog breeds that are not generally as good. So you think all animals are sweet? This ain't the video for you, sweetie. So I hate to be blunt, but that's where we're going. And those 3 things are, yes, number 1, genetics, then some breed characteristics or things to consider about the breed that you're just not going to train out of it. And then the other part that a lot of people don't see is how they are raised. And by that, I don't mean socialization. I mean, yeah, sure, pet them and all that kind of stuff with plenty of early on. But that is such a small sliver of it. It's not, like I said, they're not like a dog where if you socialize them enough, they'll be good. These 3 things, I think, sit higher above enough attention and things like that when it comes to rabbits, okay? So the best way that you're gonna have a good pet rabbit is to have these foundations down. And it's if you screw up these things, it's not trainable. You're not going to be able to train it out of them. Sorry. Okay, so let's start with the number 1, which this one unfortunately is not something you can really control. You are relying on someone else to tell you the truth, and that is the genetics part of it. Choosing animal that has both good parents or at least are not so far gone that they're uncontrollable, things like that, or at least uncontrollable by nature. Where you kind of run into issues is that a lot of people nowadays kind of just assume they don't know how to read an animal. And so one, they're trying to get cute colors and they'll try and mix these cool breeds together to get something interesting, but they won't call a bad temperament. Or they are more in the show world and conformation comes first for most of them versus a good temperament. And so I'm not saying that those people you shouldn't buy from. Absolutely not. Honestly, I think you'll get a better animal from them if you go to them versus some backyard breeder. But you need to just kind of be aware of, like, potentially the temperament is going to be more reserved. If that breeder is not focused on, at the very least, not using aggressive animals and potentially trying to keep the temperament good. So some of my personal guidelines, or when I say that's just not acceptable anymore, is most of the aggression is probably going to come from the does more than anything, especially when it comes to French Lops. Now, French Lops are like up there when it comes to good, even wanting attention rabbits. Rabbits on the whole are not all of them are this like come get my attention type thing. Most of them are reserved and really could care less if you pet them and more or less want left alone. But when it comes to the French Lops, the bucks are always up wanting petting, unless it's hot and they're like, leave me be kind of thing. But on the whole, they want attention. But the girls are the ones that are more reserved, and if they've not had a litter within the last 6 months or so, I do tolerate enough of reservedness, but not aggression. And so there's a difference. Just because they jump back when you go to pet them and don't want petted, that's just like, I don't want touched. The aggression comes when they growl or grunt and move, or they actually come at you. So I've seen one, this was maybe 10 years ago at a show, but it was at our like state convention, and as they are put in these like boxes kind of that have solid sides, but wire goes over the top so we can open them and put them in either way. And so they were in a line, but the judge was walking back and forth, and the doe was attacking every time he went past. And so thankfully that doe got removed because he's like, no. He's like, no, I'm not dealing with that, which they have the right to remove them for attitude. So that's severe aggression that I've never seen before, especially in a French Lap. But that's the extreme, right? So we don't ever tolerate that. Now, there can also be a situation where like you can't handle them at all to even clip their nails or heal a wound maybe that they got. I ran into this with a doe that eventually I just had to call her. I couldn't clip her nails. I couldn't even keep a handle on her. She got wet under her dewlap and I couldn't clip the fur and treat it. So it was just like, when they are so bad off that you cannot handle them to treat them in any way, they, for one, absolutely should not be bred, but then they need to be removed from the herd. I mean, if you want to just feed them till they pass, that's your choice. But as a breeder or a producer, that just needs removed, and that's unacceptable behavior. Now, I will say that just because both parents are good, sometimes there is a bad apple that can slip through. But for the most part, if you at least start with 2 adults that are at least manageable and friendly, you should have mostly good babies. Let's talk about the next point, is breed traits. In other words, this is something that people, if you don't look at the breed, this goes for dogs, this goes for anything, is if you don't look at what the breed was meant for or what the natural behavior of it is, then you could end up with something that's just unmanageable. So there are some breeds like Tams, Belgian Hares, there's Checker Giants. These are running breeds. And so they are meant to literally run across the not run, but like move across the table as they are being judged, or they are a very energetic, not calm breed. And so you can't train that to be calm. Like it's just like getting a Jack Russell and expecting it to be calm all the time. Like, yeah, they're lap dogs or couch dogs, but like they're a hunting breed. They're meant to run a lot, especially when they're younger. And so just think about, what was this breed meant for? Look it up. The ARBA.net is the American Rabbit Breeders Association. They have every single recognized rabbit breed on there. And you can at least get a gist of what the breed was for or what it looks like. Or you can pick up on a word or two that would make you raise a red flag and go, maybe not. So another point to think about is also the meat breeds, that some of them are okay. They're not all aggressive, but things like New Zealand's or Californians or Polish or other breeds like that are meant to be eaten and harvested, they're only going to be around for 12 weeks or so. And so if you buy from someone like that, or you just buy a breed like that, the focus is not the temperament. The focus is to get a good harvest. And so don't expect a good rabbit to, or at least a very friendly temperament to come from that. Okay? So be mindful of the breed you choose. Looking to get a French Lop rabbit, you can find all the details as far as the links in the description. But since you're still here, let me explain how it works. You can choose to pick something and wait just to see what comes available on the for sale page, or you can get on the wait list, which is $75 to do so, and that $75 is applied to the total of the rabbit that you choose, whatever the pricing may be. When you're on the wait list, you get first priority as far as the order of which you all came in on the list. So the other bonus for that is if you're looking for something particular, a buck, a doe, a certain color, driving distance. I don't have a problem using a transport as long as you set it up and they are able to come here to pick them up. If they are going very long distance, like across the country, we can hold off and keep them until about 10 weeks rather than the 8 weeks. Everything comes with a pedigree and an ID number tattooed in their left ear, so they are ready to show. If there are things that maybe I don't think is desirable about them or anything like that, I'm completely willing to tell you that. We can talk about it through email or DM. And if you are just wanting one as a pet, that is completely fine. You don't have to show them. You just have a great quality animal that is a great pet. All right, how they were raised matters way more than socialization, okay? This is what I'm gonna step on some toes on, but I hold my line in the sand, okay? You cannot raise or have a rabbit live in what you would consider natural behaviors or encouraging natural behaviors and expect a good, friendly rabbit. It's just not. Look at the wild animals and the wild rabbits. They don't want touch. They don't stick around, you know? And so these digging boxes, these just toys that are supposed to encourage natural behavior, or raising them in colonies, for goodness sakes. You are literally sticking them out in the wild again and expecting them to be manageable. Sure, they might come up and bump your leg or something like that, but like that's not a pet. So think about it and go, am I removing them from their domesticated world, trying to stick them back out in the wild, or raise them as if they were more natural. Don't expect good behavior from that. All right, here is one that I see. It's kind of a 2-point question or 2-point statement, but it's probably the number one that I see ruin a lot of what were good rabbits, and then they ended up reverting. So some of them are often, they stayed in a litter way too long. And so this happens to me a lot of times when I buy show animals that were people. Here's what happens in the breeding or in the show world. People don't have cage space to separate all their litters out, but they want to be able to see what's good, so they'll breed a bunch of litters without even consideration of having to separate them later. And then they keep what's good, but they just kind of stay in the same pen until they do whatever with them. No, it doesn't matter what you feel about that. The point of it is that they're stuck together. They got to stay together too long. And so rabbits, especially, even out in the wild where people think they live in herds, is that they still have their own space in the colony setup. The rabbits are not in this whole communal pack situation like dogs are. They still have their own space. And so rabbits start fighting for over territorial space. And if they don't have anywhere to go, they're constantly fussing and the tension is high. And so that causes an aggressive, like high energy in them. And then they're not able to chill and bring it back down. And so that number one is, I think, brings a temperament up too high. But then also with sometimes if people don't remove the doe as soon enough either. And so what I saw with a doe that I had, again, it was a cage space thing, but people had taken a little bit longer to come pick up their animals, things like that. And so I left him with the mom. Right around 11 weeks, you could just see something switch. He was the sweetest thing, and then he reverted back and got real attached to her and was kind of just back into the wild nature habits. Something just clicked in his mind, and eventually he did go, and he left around 4 months old to someone else. But he never really became manageable. Like, he looked great. He was a great show rabbit, but like, I just saw it happen before my eyes. And that's something that can be really disappointing, is to see that happen when it could have been resolved, right? Age-wise, ideally separated by 10 weeks. I've had does or girls as young as 9 weeks fight and break a lip, damage an ear, just because they're starting to get that territorial attitude. Here's what I think a lot of people don't notice, or they just don't pick up on it. I will fully acknowledge that I am a little bit more of a, I don't like the word rude, but very like self-aware, very energetically aware. And so when I can feel the tension in the animals go up a little bit, I'm like, okay, something's going on here. Somebody's got a little bit of an attitude. If you don't have the space to separate a litter of 5 or something like that, it's okay. Like, you do the best you can, but see if you can watch and see which one's becoming the most dominant, who's causing the most trouble. Remove that one and put it on its own if you have to. For the most part, what I'll do is I'll put right around 8 to 10 weeks, I'll put the does and bucks in their own cages. So then from there, I'll watch and see if I don't have the space for all of them, who's the temperamental one, and remove from there if I have to. Because people just, life happens and they can't come and pick up their animals as quickly, and I understand that. I always keep about 3 buffer cages for situations like that, okay? So consider that. If you're raising rabbits, consider that. Have some buffer cages, don't fill them up. Another one that can really affect the temperament of the rabbit you get is how soon you picked it up. So this was a couple of years, maybe 2 years ago, for about 3 years. People were in this thing of like leaving the rabbits with their mom for 12 weeks or leaving them together for 12 weeks. Oh my goodness, no. So again, that caused all those issues that I brought up, but then also they get used to who they're used to seeing. Even if they're not completely attached, rabbits are very habit driven and they want to see the same thing. They like consistency. And so when they get used to a tall, dark-haired girl come to feed them, and no offense, but a loud, crazy kid family, they're like, what the heck, you know? And so I've also had this with a couple of animals that I've bought from a guy who, he's a little bit shorter, and he, no long hair or anything, and he's a guy. So they're like, who the heck is this? Like, they're not used to me. They've lived with him for 3 to 4 months of their lives. And so, all of that time in their mind, that's their entire life. When I buy them as, late juniors, they're like, I'm used to this guy, not you, So don't wait for a month to go pick up your animal or expect the good attitude to be there, okay? So really try and get it as soon as it's released. Legally, most of states, it's 8 weeks is when they're allowed to leave, and then try to get them by 10 weeks if at all possible. That tends to be the transition window that works beautifully for most. So just try and stick to that. All right, so remember, genetics, the breed and the intention of the breed, and then how they're raised. Don't expect wild or more natural behavior to give you a good attitude, okay? Stick to the what keeps them domesticated, what keeps them in a good temperament. Stick to that kind of thing. Hey, are you tired of rabbit advice that's just a little bit more out there and far less practical than you would like? If you are struggling to get straight answers, what do rabbits really need, but you're not interested in letting them run free in your home and chew your baseboards, you need to sign up for my Rabbitry Standard newsletter, where I am sharing advice just to help you get practical care advice for rabbits, learn how to keep them outside if you want to keep them in your home, but a little bit more contained, you're also welcome, and how to raise rabbits that either one, support your homesteading goals, or you want to get into showing, or you want your kids to start 4-H, anything like that. Those resources are linked below, and you will get some amazing free guides sent your way upon sign up. I'll see you inside.